today I'll be replaying the Premier League season but making everybody rich. About an hour ago I just watched Man City lift their 4th Premier League title in a row, 6 in the last 7 years. But, you know, we're missing football already. It's been an hour for me. It probably would have been about 24 hours for you. I'll probably put this video out tomorrow. But what we're doing is we're making everybody rich. So what I've done is I've flipped the table upside down. Well, not really upside down. So starting with Sheffield, I've give them $1 billion. And then Burnley get 900 million, Luton get 800 million, Forest get 700 million, and so on. Right the way down to 11th with Brighton, who get 100 million. And then everyone who got in the top half don't need the money, so they get nothing. So basically, the bottom half teams have all got a financial gain, and the top half teams didn't get anything extra. I didn't take any money off them, but I just didn't give them any extra. All the bottom half teams got a big push in their finances, and they got it all in the transfer budget as well, so they're hopefully going to spend it. So yeah, we're going to just go through one season, play through this Premier League season, and hope we see a lot of change, because some of the teams down the bottom are now billionaire clubs. So hopefully we'll see something interesting. But before we get into the video, just please subscribe and like the video for all the Football Manager content. Come in and leave in the comments who you think is going to win this title. Back to the video. So into the save we are, obviously, as you can see, Sheffield there with their £1 billion. If we go on to Luton as well, they will have their 800 million. Burnley will have their 900 million. But hopefully we're going to see an interesting season. Are we going to see much difference? Will the top teams still have the power to finish top? Or will, like Sheffield, just be able to build a super team straight away and push for Europe? I don't think we're going to see anyone different winning the league. I think it will be between City or Arsenal to win the league. Or maybe Liverpool with a late push as well. But hopefully we'll see some of the teams from the bottom push up towards the top. And we'll see some new teams getting relegated. I expect to see, because Palace just missed out on getting any sort of financial gain because they shot up and finished 10th for the first time in their history. So I expect Palace to be quite low down. I expect maybe Bournemouth to be low down because they didn't get much money. As for maybe, I'm not sure, maybe West Ham might drop a bit down because they obviously haven't got any financial gain. They finish in the top half. But yeah, let's just get into it and let's see. So I've simulated to the end of August. We're on the 31st of August. City and Tottenham and West Ham make the best starts, winning their first 3 games. Burnley are up there though, but Sheffield United, they've lost their first 3 games. They would be bottom if it wasn't for Everton's points deduction. Let's have a look at the transfers though. I'm going to sort by fees just to see if we've seen any big ones. So the highest was actually an outgoing. Some of these are outgoings. Zielinski went to Man City. Bournemouth got Ndidi, but we're not seeing much money spent from the low. So there's not been many signings. I don't think this is gonna work. Hopefully we might see a bit more in January. But as it stands, Sheffield didn't bring in anyone, and they had £1 billion, which is really disappointing because that was supposed to be the concept of the video. Yeah, they haven't signed a single player with the money that they've got. Have they still got it? Let's just make sure. Budget. Yeah, so they've still got £1 billion, but they're just not spending it. Maybe the game needs to take its time for them to realise they've got it and they'll spend it in Jan. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So we'll go a few games. Maybe we'll go to November and we'll see where we are then. Right, then we're coming into the holiday period. We're at the end of November, coming into December, and it's City, Liverpool and Arsenal, sort of the top 3 teams, although Tottenham are close to Arsenal, but it's a 5-point gap between Tottenham and the top. Everton, even though they had their 6 points deduction, are off the bottom of the table. It's Luton at the bottom, with Sheffield actually out of the bottom 3. But we're getting closer to January. Hopefully we're going to see those clubs actually spend the money I gave them. Otherwise this is just going to be really disappointing, and it's just going to be a normal simulation, which is what I definitely didn't want it to be. I wanted it to be fun, but we may just see a normal resimulation, but hopefully they spend some cash in Jan. But after 13 games, this is what the table looks like. Salah leading the average rating. Haaland obviously leading the goals. He's got 10, but Sterling and Son are up there with 7. But yeah, that's how we're looking at the minute. Bournemouth leading the injury table with Chelsea, Newcastle and Brighton. That's just information that you might want. But yeah, so that's how we're looking at the table. Villa not looking as well as they did in real life. As for Palace, they've only really dropped 2 places. Newcastle not really had that strong of a start. But other than that, the table is what you'd expect maybe. Chelsea just a little bit higher than you'd expect them to be, considering the season that they had this season. But we'll go to the end of January. Hopefully we'll see some teams spend some money, and let's get to January. 23 games in then, and it's City still leading the way with Liverpool hot on their tails. Arsenal dropping off a bit. The gap has started to form between City, Liverpool and sort of the rest of the table. But West Ham are in the top 4. Villa have now pushed on again. Obviously, they had a little bit of a slow start. Sheffield, as you'd expect, have dropped back into the bottom 3 with Luton at the bottom. But Fulham have dropped in. Burnley managing to keep a drift away from the bottom 3 for now. It's a 6-point gap from safety for them. Man United all the way down in 10th. It's not great for United. Haaland's only scored 4 goals since we last checked, and I think it's been 10 games, so he's only got 4 in his last 10. Son and Sterling, there's still 2. So the top 3 goal scorers have been the same since we moved. City only lost 2 games to Chelsea and Villa. As for Liverpool, they lost 3 to Everton, City and Brighton. Have we seen any moves then in January? We'll sort it by... So we've got David around to Arsenal, but they're not the teams we want to see. You know what, let's just sort it to 2 and just see if there's any Premier League teams in here. So Bournemouth made a few moves. They went for Ndidi, Derai, he's pretty good. Jorge, Hayden Hackney. You know, I was expecting some bigger names. Brentford signed a couple players, but no one really of note. But they did sign Mubama from West Ham, who's a highly rated youngster. And they signed Lewis Cook from Bournemouth as well. Burnley brought in a few players, including Wesley. Now that is a terrible signing. He's a really bad striker. Chelsea brought in a couple players, but no one really of note. Palace brought in James Justin. That's a pretty good signing for them. As for anyone else, not really. Everton brought in a couple players. Charlie Creswell from Leeds. Giovanni Lo Celso for Everton. That's a pretty good one. Fulham, they signed Cornet. But other than that, no one really. Liverpool signed... Okay, I thought that was Rodri. It's the Betis Rodri. But they did sign Mazraoui. That's a decent signing. But they do already have Trent. Luton, they picked up Matt Clark. Obviously, he had a great season at West Brom. They also got Bueno from Wolves and Neto. I'm assuming that's the goalkeeper. I'm not sure where they've actually gone for a keeper because they have Kaminsky, who's actually pretty good. City signed a few players, but no one really standing out apart from Zielinski, who we already saw. Newcastle brought in Mateus Rees, the centre-half, and Hermoso. They're really strengthening that back line. Lloyd Kelly as well, with Malacia as well. They just went all-out defensive signings, Newcastle. Norwich brought in McBurney. That's an interesting one. Forest got Firpo, Patrick Roberts. Ronnie Edwards is a good young centre-back. I'm pretty sure he got Young Player of the Year in League One for Peterborough. Sheffield, you know, considering the amount of money they had, they really didn't spend it, and they really didn't bring anyone of note in either. Anyone else? Tottenham brought in a few players. Dennis Sirkin from Sunderland. Lacroix from Wolfsburg. Marcus Edwards has returned to Tottenham with Jonathan David as well. They've actually strengthened. Karen Konate as well, really good on this game. Good young striker. So Tottenham have probably strengthened the most. West Ham brought in a fair few players. Jacob Murphy has came in. Jonathan Rowe, he's a good player from Norwich. Facundo Torres from the MLS. Asula, that's an interesting signing. Not really West Ham standard. Wolves brought in a lot of players, but no one really of note. That Quaresma's supposed to be good. Jamal Lascelles is a weird signing, but it's not what we expected. It's not as exciting as I hoped. But at least the video's not clickbait because I did make everybody rich. They just did not spend it, and that's their choice. But we've got an interesting race for the top 4 here. West Ham fighting for top 4. Villa as well. Tottenham had a really good January window, so hopefully we'll see Tottenham push on for top 4 as well. And yeah, let's see where we are in around March stage when we're getting into the end of the season and see who wins the league. So it's the 1st of April and Dominic Calvert-Lewin has stormed through as the top goal scorer. That's the first thing I noticed. But City have started to form a gap. They are now 5 points clear, but Liverpool do have a game in hand. Arsenal still in 3rd. Tottenham, as I sort of guessed, have pushed for top 4 because of how good of a January that they had. Villa have dropped out of the race a little bit. They've got a sort of pick up 6 points. United are out of 10th, but I don't think they're going to get Europe realistically. Luton are still bottom, but Sheffield are making a push to get out of the bottom 3. Burnley look well clear. They are 13 points above the drop, so Burnley look definitely like they're going to stay up, but Fulham are struggling. Fulham are only 2 points ahead of Luton. But both Luton and Fulham have a game in hand. But it's looking like it's going to be an interesting title race. I don't think Wolves are going to be dragged in, or Bournemouth. But, you know, between these 4 teams here, it's going to be interesting to see which actually go down. But other than that, there's no real shock positions. I guess Everton have done pretty well. They'd be on 41 without the deduction. So they'd be like mid-table 11th. But other than that, you know, teams are around. West Ham, probably the only real shock. And maybe Fulham in 19th. I didn't expect that. But other than that, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's probably the shock of this save. Getting, you know, he's currently top goal scorer on 17. Haaland he's had a really bad back end of the season. Obviously, he was on 14 in January. We've gone 2 months ahead, and he's only on 16. So I think he's only got 6 goals in the last 17. So he might have picked up an injury. I'm not sure. Arsenal getting Conference League means I think they've probably won the League Cup. The EFL Cup, that is. So I think Arsenal have probably won that. But yeah, we'll go to the end. We'll go to the end of the season. We'll just go right to the end and see where everybody is, who's gone down, who's got top 4, and who has won the Premier League. So congratulations to Manchester City. It was inevitable. They have won their 4th Premier League title in a row, just as they did in real life. Although this time it is Liverpool who have taken them to the wire and finished 2nd. Although it was a 5-point gap, so I don't think it would have gone to the final day. Arsenal finished 3rd. Chelsea, actually, were the team that pushed into the 4th place position, securing that top 4 place. Tottenham dropped off a bit, but they did only finish 3 points from top 4. Aston Villa, they pushed on. They only finished a point from top 4. West Ham dropped off a bit. They finished 4 points. United, they finished 9th. That's a really poor season. But the bottom 3 is Luton, Sheffield and Fulham. Luton finishing rock bottom. Sheffield finishing 7 points from the drop. And Forest, you know, I think Wolves, if I'm not mistaken, was 6 points from the drop the last time. So Forest just, you know, they had a good end to the season. They must have had a good last, you know, 6-7 games. So, you know, Sheffield go down with £1 billion in their bank account. Luton go down with £800 million in their bank account. And Fulham, how much did I give them? I think they had 400 million, so they probably spent about 39 of it. Haaland did beat Calvert-Lewin to the Golden Boot because Calvert-Lewin didn't score for the rest of the season after he made that push. He must have probably got injured in the typical Dominic Calvert-Lewin fashion. Jarrod Bowen finished 3rd though, so, you know, that's interesting, I guess. Son got 4th, Isak, Watkins, Nunez. Nunez got 12, Salah a bit lower down than you'd expect, really. But, yeah, I guess that's it. So, you know, it wasn't as exciting as I hoped it would be because the teams didn't spend the money I gave them. But in an alternate reality, Manchester City still won the league. There was no stopping them. So, unlucky Arsenal fans, I guess. You were never destined to win the league in any reality. Certainly not the Football Manager one. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe as usual, and make sure to leave in the comments what videos you want to see coming up in the future, and I will see you later. Thanks for coming.